Proper.
Yes.
Let's go live.
Hello, everyone. Very good morning. I welcome you all on behalf of WRC of ICI on a Saturday pleasant morning. Uh, so today we will be discussing the proposals which have been made, the recent circulars which have been issued, after post 50th GST Council meeting. This is a very, and I thank you all the faculties, who have agreed to on such a short notice to be part of this program and share their knowledge and wisdom and their thoughts around it. We have our chairman as well today with us, and I also have secretary of WRC CS Saurabh Azmera. So I welcome you all along with all the participants. Quickly, as a tradition, we request everyone to kindly place your hand on heart for the ICI motto. Mishra ji.
य एष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति य एष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति कामं पुरुषो निर्विमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तद्ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनात्यति कश्चन एतद्वैता
Thank you so much, Mishra ji. Now it's time to hear from Chairman of WRC. I request CA Arpit Kabra, Chairman WRC, to give his opening remarks to the participant.
Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome
Chairman,
to this. Yeah, can you hear me, Gautam? Right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this yet another series of GST Relearn series. I think one of the most important now with these circulars coming in, day out. I think we don't have to wait for budgets. So it is more like a half-yearly budget that has come out with so many changes, so many notifications. So I think Gautam, thank you for suggesting that let us do this entire program. And I must really compliment all the three speakers, Sumit, for setting up the entire discussion. Pranav ji, of course, with his expertise, and Vivek Laddha ji, who was prompt in saying that let us quickly share what all has come and with all the circular notification. But I'm told that yet some circulars and notifications are yet to specify again some of the rates. So maybe we could have one more round of discussion once we get all the clarity. But yes, so today these discussions would largely be based on whatever decisions of the council has happened. At WRC, I think we are committed towards a lot of innovative programs this year. So Wednesdays we have for women on Wednesday, Tech Ed series on Thursday, only on technology. Friday, yesterday we had someone talking about storytelling as how to grow a practice, and how storytelling helps in getting engaging conversation. So Friday Fundas is something that is important for our practice, but not really a technical subject. Niryat series, Gurukul at WRC, Startup Lab, Nest Cafe, and Samvad, Vishwaska, and tax clinics are some more initiatives that we've done this year. Gautam, who's joined here, is also working very strategically on the Niryat series, and we keep on doing a lot of interesting seminars and kind of webinars with foreign chapters, and try and understand what are the various opportunities, what are the capacity that we need to build so as to serve these offshore entities and offshore jurisdictions. Saurabh has really put up everything on Startup Lab. And as a secretary, I think he's committed towards working on all of these initiatives. So I think overall we are trying to make sure that we do a lot of relevant conversations and interactive meetings and webinars. So much so that today in afternoon also the indirect tax study group will be having a discussion on the same lines on 50th this council meeting and the outcome of all of these council meetings. At WRC, one of the things that we are always focused at is how to grow a practice, how members can, actually grow their practice and work in a strategic manner, get into networking, get into bigger and larger partnerships also. So keeping that in mind, 11th and 12th August, we have organized a seminar at Sahara Star only for practicing CAs. We have 2 days of discussions and presentations from each of the practicing CAs on as to what are their visions, what are the new sunrise area of opportunities, and various other important panel discussions wherein, how can you actually adopt or get into a partnership mode? What are the things that you should take care of, and all of these things. So, one thing what Pranavji and we were talking just before joining in the session was how do people actually come to know? Because there were so many people who said after the event is over, "Arey, we also wanted to be a part of this session." So I think emailers are most important. I would request through each one of you through this webinar that please at least look at the subject line of the emailers before outrightly ignoring them. See if it is relevant and probably one glance towards it, and it may be of a lot of help. We're trying to work on that last mile connectivity at WRC and try to see that we reach out to all the members and at least they are aware of what is happening, and whether they participate or not is up to them, but of course they should know these things are happening. So we are trying to work out on those ways. If you would have any suggestions, please feel free to let us know. Also, newsletters, I would request all of you to please go through our newsletters. There is a wonderful section called as networking zone in the newsletters that have really fired up the way networking can be done throughout not only the region but also throughout the country. So a lot of opportunities are being presented in networking zone as well. If you are someone who needs something, or if you're seeking any kind of an expertise in any sector or any place or any geography, you can please send us an email on wrc.connect@ici.in and post your requirements at the networking zone. I'm sure so many people looking up at the newsletter would definitely love to get in touch with you, connect with you, and probably see your solutions are met. With these words, thank you very much, and I hope you have a great session. Over to you, Gautam.
Thank you, Chairman, sir. I recognize the presence of our Secretary, C.S. Saurabh Azmera. Saurabh bhai, thank you joining us, on such a wonderful morning. Now, quickly coming to the session, it is time for the introduction of our faculties or panelists today. So the session will be moderated by C.A. Sumit Jhunjhunwala. Sumit Jhunjhunwala is a practicing chartered accountant into indirect taxation. He has delivered various lectures at WIRC, very well-known face. He has also co-authored various publications like booklet on union budget onto indirect taxation in 2009, handbook on valuation on GST perspective, issues in EPC contract on GST, articles in various trade magazines as well as WIRC publications. We welcome you, Sumit, and thank you so much for joining us. Then our second panelist is Pranav Kapadia. It's a kind of tradition whenever we are having any GST council meeting, major GST council meeting, Pranav bhai is always available, to share his thoughts, his opinion. He is a practicing chartered accountant and partner with APMH and Associates LLP. Pranav bhai is also past president of GSTPM, chairman of Indirect Tax Committee of CTC in 1920. He is a member of Indirect Tax Committee of WIRC in 21-22, and he is an expert into GST help desk, which we have organized at WIRC on GST annual return. He is also a regular speaker and co-authored of. We welcome you, Pranav bhai, today at WIRC. Thank you for joining us. The third panelist is Mr. Vivek Laddha. He's a chartered accountant, LLB, CMA, CS. He's a founder partner of Law Brothers. Vivek is author of Taxman book on GST, regular faculty at Nasin, at LTU, Maharashtra, Rajasthan government, and various state and CGST commissionerate. We welcome you, Vivek bhai. It's an honor for WIRC to have you all three as a panelist. So without taking much of time, over to Sumit bhai for Sumit for to take this forward. Sumit, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, WSA Chairman Arpit ji, Secretary Saurabh bhai, RCM Gautam bhai, and ITT Chairman of WRC Gautam bhai. It's absolute indeed pleasure over here. While you called me up last week to schedule this session, I was on a bit of a fix that without the circulars and notification, how are we supposed to deliver the talk on this topic? And in the next minute, you resolved my problems, whereby you have asked me to just ask the questions and nominated two learned faculties to provide the answers. So before we begin this session, let me just give a brief background. Since this GST Council has met on 11th of July 2023, today we are sitting 22nd July, 11 days since that. Still, there are just 7 or 8 circulars issued by the government on the 40-50 changes that they have proposed. And just 3 or 4 notifications that to extending the dates for the amnesty schemes. For rest of all the changes, I believe both the panelists, Pranav Kapadia and Vivek ji, will be giving their answers, their views, their thoughts based on what is the information in the public domain, what is the expected amendment in the law that we can expect to see in the coming days. So things could change what we are delivering right now and what really comes out by the government in the actual gazette notifications and the amendments in the law. So this is just an attempt, a very good attempt by WIRC to keep educating our members about what are the different changes, what could be the different issues that we as practitioners, we as taxpayers should watch out for. So with this brief background, let me start with the session for today. So our first issue, friends, when we see the press release given by the government, first 10 or 15 changes are all related to regularization of taxes on certain kinds of goods on as is various basis. You see, in certain places, they have very clearly put forth that these are being regularized, but due to genuine interpretation issues. We are left flummoxed where these genuine interpretation issues were within the government machinery or within the taxpayers fraternity. Where this interpretation was lacking, I don't know, but that is how things they have gone about. Just a few of these changes I have listed on the slide over here. I hope the slide is visible. So just to give a reference, these are just 3 or 4 changes. There are multiple changes over there. Just to give a background, I've listed down these 4 changes. Now my question to our first panelist, let's take this to our panelist Vivek Laddha. Vivek ji, while the council has recommended for regularization of less payment of taxes, or possibly there may be cases where they have paid more taxes, and they have tried to regularize this on as is basis. Now, what is the power of the council to regularize less or more payment of taxes on as is basis? We understand there might be powers with the council to exempt certain things with retrospective date, give out explanation in notifications. But does the council really have the power to regularize these taxes?
Okay. So thank you, organizers, and thanks to the coordinator of the session. Let me take up this particular issue. Firstly, it should be very much clear that press release, whatever is containing is not the law. And so far as this regularization is concerned, this is a beneficial provision. Okay. Many times what happens is, people do take the reading of the press release in a way, where the strict interpretation is applicable, right? So strict interpretation or literal interpretation cannot be cannot be applied on the reading of the press release. This is the very first provision. Okay, because I've been asked a question that in few of the para of press release they do talk about regularization, and with a very clear mentioning that regularization is being done in the view of genuine interpretational issue. If you refer the press release closely, you would find in para B7 and B9 this particular phrase has been mentioned, that as is basis in the view of genuine interpretational issue. But as opposed to this, if you read A1, B3, B4 and B8 of press release, you don't find this particular phrase. So apparently, by way of comparative reading, it comes to know that why this phrase has not been used in all other para where they are actually talking about regularization in the same manner where they have talked in para B7 and B9. Okay, so why I'm mentioning this comparison, because just to give the background of the legality that press release cannot be studied by way of following the strict interpretation. It might contain or it might not contain this phrase, but the intention of government is to give the benefit. Of course, this benefit gives an inequality impression, because in the previous years, if someone has paid the higher amount of tax, like in the para A1, they have talked about the regularization for the payment of GST on uncooked or unfried snack pellets, right? So now they are talking that it will be 5%. So earlier in a case when they have paid 18% or 12% as the case may be, what will happen on those taxpayers or the customers who have actually afforded the burden of the excess tax, right? This is the question. So this is of course the emotion which is being coming out from the taxpayer fraternity and the customers, that we have they feel like cheated, that we have paid excess tax, right? So in a case where the B2C supply comes into the picture, when the ultimate customer affords the difference of 13% or 7%, the question comes, what will happen in case if the regularization happens like this? Would we be able to take the benefit of remaining amount in a way of refund assets? Because Article 14 says that the state shall not deny to any person equality before the law. Okay, so they say that if someone is paying 5% and if we are paying 12% or 18%, what is the difference, right? We are not being treated as equal, as contemplated by Article 14. Let me tell you that this is the policy matter. Whatever the taxation law contains, that these are the policy matters, and absolutely these are absolutely the prerogative of the government to come out of it. Okay, so government may give the regularization in this way. There is no bar on this, but the point is, if there is any manifest arbitrariness, if it is proven before the court of the law, of course it may be challenged. So I don't deny from this, but as per the practice of the government, what they have also followed this particular way on, by way of circular 191 dated 27th of March 2023. This phrase has been actually used and similarly used, but government has not given any methodology to provide the refund to those taxpayers who have paid the excess amount of tax, right? And of course, this time also it is absolutely not expected from the government to come out of it. So government does not have any intention, but if someone challenges with the manifest arbitrariness, it may be decided by the court of law to provide the refund, but of course it will be used machinery to be consumed in that. Okay, so this is a subjective answer, so this cannot be given in an absolute manner.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vivekji, on that front. So, as you said, I think first and foremost, we'll have to wait for the actual notifications to come through to see whether these terms as is basis, whether they are reproduced in the Gazette notifications or not. That's the first step.
Sir,
And what powers
yeah.
the government is using to really regularize all these payments, and thereafter challenge with respect to the Article 14, whether there is an absolute arbitrariness or not, as you rightly put forth.
So, sir, just to add it, because the notification, I'm not saying that I'm waiting for the notification. I'm just talking about the applicability of Article 14 as well. Okay. So how, people will play with Article 14, that is the matter to be seen in the court of law. Otherwise, government has a very clear intention to regularize it. And of course, this regularization will come into the picture, right? So, that is not the deviated expectation from my side, but only thing which we have to see that how manifest arbitrariness is proven by taking a shelter of Article 14. Okay, that will be a matter of debate and a huge debate as such.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Vivek. Pranav, any thoughts or any contrary views on this front, sir?
Hello. Good morning, everybody. Hi, Sumit and Vivek, and my regards to all the office bearers at WRC, Chairman Arpit Kabra, Secretary Saurabh Ajmera, and Chairman Indirect Tax Committee Gautam Lath, and all the participants in this webinar. Thanks to WRC for giving me this opportunity year on year, or I can say half year on half year, whenever the GST Council comes out with a plethora of amendments. It's indeed a pleasure to go through all this and try to understand the thought process behind what all is going on. It's really very interesting. As regards this question which has come on as is basis, I do fully agree with what Vivek has told. I would just like to add 2 points in this. One thing is, say, there was a controversy as regards the ice cream parlors. What rate should the ice cream parlors charge, whether 5% or 18%? And then last year in 2022, the government had come out that on 18 July, the rate charge will be 5%. Or no, 18%. But those who have already charged 5%, for them the benefit was given. No ITC was allowed, etc. All those things. So 2 things happened simultaneously. The government came out with a notification as well as with a circular. No refund was granted to anyone in that circular. It was very clear. It was circular number 177 of 2022, where they have come out with this clarification that what would happen to those who have already charged a lesser amount in this case. So wherever there are genuine interpretational issues, government, I think it is the way the government is moving. The government is trying to resolve many controversies which are cropping up under the GST law. And I think here also possibly the government will have to come out, because wherever they have written on as is basis, there would be some thought process again behind it. And definitely the government would come out with some circular along with the notification. I can also try to correlate this with the printing industry issue, which was there under the erstwhile VAT and works contract era, or the BST and works contract era, wherein there was a long controversy. The Mathushri High Court, the Bombay High Court judgment in the case of Mathushri Textiles had come, and therein it was said that okay, this printing is works contract, and then lots of notification circulars had come. But always what we have seen earlier and experienced earlier is that whatever taxes have already been collected, there is no refund of those taxes, because it might happen that in case if the consumer is a B2B consumer, or say if the recipient is a B2B recipient of those supplies, then they might have taken the credit. So the entire gamut of taxation, goes for a toss in case if there are any such changes. So maybe possibly the thumb rule which we have come across is whatever tax is collected and paid, that goes into the government treasury, the recipient would get the input tax credit of what has happened. And that is why maybe they are telling on as is basis, whatever has happened, at least now we are clarifying that from now onwards, this will be the situation. So I think this is my take on as is basis.
Okay, Pranav, got your point. So I think with that background on the past changes and some past judgments on this front, so I think we might have to just live with it and fight another day on this issues for the people who are really affected by these amendments and feel that yes, they have paid more taxes on this front. Coming to our second issue for today, really not a case of interpretation, but rather what I felt personally is that what happens when there is a change of heart. Two issues over here. One, the government has very nicely given out a benefit that, okay, if the GTAs, goods transport agencies, want to opt for forward charge mechanism, they file a declaration on the portal. The earlier deadline being 15th of March, that they have extended to 31st March, very welcome. They have also clarified that yes, this option will be already made available on the portal from 1st January onwards, very welcome change. And once you file this declaration, you continue to remain under forward charge unless and until you opt back to reverse charge. Very welcome provisions, no doubt about it. My question over here, sir, this one-time option or this perpetual option, is it applicable from next financial year? So let's say a GTA who has already opted for forward charge this year, does he again need to, do you think will need to again file a option in the for the next financial, or will his current application itself will it be carried forward? What do you think over there, sir?
Yeah, I think the GTAs were given an option. This came last year on 18 July 2022. The first option was given that you to so those who have already those who want to exercise should do it by 16th of August 2022. That was the first time when it came. Then subsequently, and in that notification, they had mentioned that in case if the GTA wants to opt for forward charge mechanism, then he needs to opt by 15th of March 2023 if he wants to opt for 2023-24. So various difficulties were there, and we have seen practically many GTAs missing those deadlines, and many companies now they want the input tax credit. We have seen huge players. They are now switching over to forward charge mechanism, taking input tax credit of the basically because there's a huge credit in the assets. The asset value is huge, and we have practically seen many truck owners converting themselves from reverse charge mechanism to forward charge mechanism in this scenario, and many missing the deadlines also. And there were several representations made to the council in this respect that first of all, the time limit should get extended, which the council had done, and the date of 15th March 2023 was extended till 31st May 2023. The notification had come in the month of April at that point of time. Now, and as of now, what we have is only the press release. The press release, as Sumit rightly mentioned, has given an option that once you have opted for charging tax as a GTA under forward charge mechanism, that option will continue till it is reverted back, or the person or the GTA tells that he now wants to again come back to reverse charge mechanism. Till that time it will continue. So it's only a one-time exercise. And I think from the wordings of the press release, I was just going through the press release, and it says that if they have exercised this option for a particular financial year, they shall be deemed to have exercised it for the next and future financial years, unless they file a declaration that they want to revert to the reverse charge mechanism. So I feel that the intention appears to be to give the benefit to the applications which are already filed, and I don't think for 24-25 they will ask again to file a fresh application for allowing the one time. So it should apply to 23-24. Those who have applied, they will be given the benefit. My view on this.
With that being said, sir, would it be advisable for the taxpayers and the consultants to again check on the portal whether the portal is still expecting?
Yeah, of course, we need to check on the portal once again, and I think here the clarification has not yet come. The circular has also not yet come on GTA. So I think that clarification would come in the circular itself.
Okay, all right. So the second point that comes into my mind is that, let's say I have opted for this forward charge mechanism. I filed my declaration or these options on the portal. Now, before the start of the financial year, let's say this option is being made available for 1st January 24 onwards. I'm a new GTA. I've gone for reverse charge for this current financial year. For 24-25, I want to go for forward charge. I filed my declaration, let's say on 31st January 24, that I want to go for forward charge. Do you think the government would be providing an option for the GTAs to change their decisions before the start of the financial year? Or this change of decision to again revert back from forward charge to reverse charge or reverse charge to forward charge, it can be done only on financial year basis, or before the start of financial year, or even in the middle of financial year?
Yeah, so what the amendment is proposed is that there will be a window which will be given to the GTAs from 1st of January till 31st of March of each year to opt in for the next year. And I think for opt out also the same window will apply, that they will be opting out for the subsequent year. And I think the option once exercised will be applicable for the entire year. Midway, it will not be allowed to be changed. If we also try to see the Annexure 5, the form Annexure 5, which has been prescribed for the GTA for applying for opting for this option, it has a clause which mentions that in point number 2 thereof, it mentions that I understand that this option once exercised shall not be allowed to be changed within a period of 1 year from the date of exercising the option, and will remain valid till the end of the financial year for which it is exercised. So the government is very clear. Yeah, I think even the notification 3/22 also makes it very clear that they will not be able to change in between. So, okay, your point which says that before actual implementation, if the mind changes and you want to change that, but I don't think the portal will allow that, because Annexure 5 says that once you have filled the form, you cannot touch it for 1 year. So, but otherwise you may have to contest it in a different manner, that, okay, this was an error in filling up the form, a change of mind, whatever, change of facts, and hence we want to fight it out. But generally, in general terms, it will not.
Okay. All right. Vivek ji, any thoughts, any contrary views on this front?
Yes, yes. As such, there is no contrary view. It is just an addition. Okay. First point, that whatever the government has to bring it out, it will be brought out of from the notification only. Okay, because so far as this mechanism for opting is concerned, everything has been mentioned in the notification. So in my view, the notification will tell us about the future story. First point. Second point, so far as your question is concerned, that before starting the year, if someone wants to switch, okay, if I have opted for forward charge mechanism on say 1st of January, and on the very next day I want to change my decision before starting the financial year. In my view, it can be changed. Why so? Because even if the government portal is not giving the option to revise this, okay, still it can be the decision can be changed. Why so? Because when you read 11/2017 central tax rate, this entry number 9965, it does not tell you that it has to be opted electronically only. Okay, because this word electronically has been used multiple times in the law, and of course it's my view only. Okay, and if you read Annexure 5 also, as my co-speaker has also mentioned the reading, that I understand that this option once exercised shall not be allowed to be changed within a period of 1 year from the date of exercising the option, and will remain valid till the end of the financial year once it is exercised. So it is actually inferring about the restriction during the financial year. Okay. So before financial year, if you want to change it out, of course, because government portal does not allow you, you have to go for the jurisdictional officer. Needless to state, conservatively, one has to be very cautious about opting the same, so that the future hurdles should not be faced by him. Okay. Otherwise, because the word electronically has not been mentioned, then you can take the advantage of this in case if something comes out as new.
Okay. So this just to give you a background, this question popped into my mind because the way the government GST Council keeps on meeting and makes changes in policies. I may have opted on 1st January based on certain information, certain provisions of law. And during next 3 months, the government could make changes in the IT input tax credit policies or the rate changes. And my entire working, what I have opted for, as Pranav mentioned at the start of his talk, that companies are having huge accumulated ITCs and all those things. So all those my financial workings could go for a toss. This is where the thought process of whether I can revert back, if at least there is a change of policy by the government itself on certain tax rates or input tax credit eligibilities. So as Vivek, you mentioned that yes, if the word electronically has not been mentioned, there should be option available to all the taxpayers to at least file a manual applications to revert back.
I'm just saying that, this is what the reading between the lines is. Okay. So in case if it happens that if I want to change my decision because there is no restriction, so one can go for the beneficial review.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay. So otherwise, conservatively, no one would say in consultancy that you have to change and you have the option. One should not go for this, that stretch should not come in you as usual. But in case if something is, happening so far as the change in decision is concerned, you can take the advantage of it.
Okay. All right. So while we are on the topic of reverse charge, there was another hot brewing topic for the past 6 years in GST and even prior to that in service tax era. Private personal services given by director in his private or personal capacity, and most especially such cases as renting of the immobile property. So friends, while we see a lot of our clients, the directors are the owners of the immobile property, the office property, and the directors have leased or rented out the property to the company and earning the lease rentals. Now, the director may not be really having his aggregate turnover about 20 lakh in a year to be registered on GST, and was giving the tax-free rental services to the company, where a lot of places during scrutinies and audits, the revenue has raised this issue that these are services given by director to a company and the company has to pay GST and a reverse charge. Now, the council has given a clarification that services given by director in his private or personal capacities, such as renting of immobile property, is not under RCM. It's under forward charge. So my first question to on this, Vivek ji, is that what happens if, let's say, the director's turnover was more than 20 lakh, he was normally required to be registered under GST, but since the revenue was always arguing that these are taxable under reverse charge mechanism, and the director has not charged GST from the company and paid it, but rather the company has paid the GST on such renting services under RCM, what happens to such cases? Can the directors expect the demand notice to be issued upon them, whereby the notice may be stating, see, this is the circular where we have clarified, there is no amendment in the law, where the government has now clarified, the board has now clarified that these services are under forward charge only, there is no reverse charge, and you as the landlord should have charged GST to the company.
Okay. Very interesting question, sir. And I must appreciate you that you have, imagined in that way also, because when I was reading it, I could not, imagine to that extent. Nevertheless, before attempting this question, I would like to throw the attention on the actual intent of the law, because RCM is the next step. Very first step is whether it is a supply or not. Okay, if it is not a supply, then I should not think further. This is my view, because for being a supply, it should, as per the reading of section 7 subsection 1 clause 8, it says that it should be in the course of business or in furtherance of business. And you know the reading, the definition of business is also provided under section 2 clause 17, right? So in a case where I am a director, and in my personal capacity, if I am, giving the property on rental basis, the question arises whether it is falling under the scope of supply or not. If it is not falling under the scope of supply, there is no question of talking about the taxability and reverse charge mechanism in further, right? So, what happened? This is as like Lord के बुद्धू घर को आए. No, we see in the litigation era that कई सारे ऐसे issue हैं जो 10 साल बाद में, 15 साल बाद में जाके पता चलता है कि वो तो कुछ था ही नहीं. तो वैसा ही इन केसेस में है. जैसे रेंटल है, बहुत ही बेसिक इशू है जो गवर्नमेंट डे 0 पे इसको डिस्कस कर सकती थी या उसको डील कर सकती थी. Number of notification, number of clarifications are coming out in day out. जबकि ये ऐसे issues हैं जो which are being faced by taxpayers, ordinary life, right? Like जैसे gaming है, गेमिंग हो सकता है बहुत ही सेक्टर स्पेसिफिक है एंड वेरी few stakeholders are there in that so far as the business front is concerned. But transactions like renting of immobile property is a very usual, okay, and these are very much prevalent in the villages also, right? तो ये कोई ऐसा ट्रांजेक्शन नहीं है जिस पे गवर्नमेंट सोच नहीं सकती थी, बट अब इनको जाके 5 साल 6 साल बाद जाके इनको पता चल रहा है कि दिस शुड नॉट बी कवर्ड इन द चार्ज. एंड as I've already discussed in the background of the very first question, that these are the press release. The wordings of press release cannot be read in a strict manner. हमको of course यहाँ wait करना पड़ेगा ये exactly clarification किस way से आता है. Okay, पहला चीज तो ये है कि ये clarification क्या circular में आता है, या दूसरा जो मुद्दा है वो है notification, because this entry is covered in the notification 13/2017 central tax rate. तो आपने देखा होगा जो रेंटल का हमारे पास में नोटिफिकेशन रेंटल एग्जम्पशन के लिए, तो दैट इज कवर्ड अंडर 12/2017 सेंट्रल टैक्स रेट. एंड एज यू कैन सी दैट ऑन 18th of July 2022 they came out with notification 5/2022 सेंट्रल टैक्स रेट. तो हो क्या रहा है इस चीज का क्लैरिफिकेशन, मतलब इस पर्टिकुलर एंट्री में अगर एक्सप्लेनेशन भी डालना था तो इन्होंने इसी एंट्री में दिया है उसको, ठीक है. अब पॉइंट ये है कि जब डायरेक्टर अपनी प्रॉपर्टी को रेंटल बेसिस पर कंपनी को प्रोवाइड करेगा, ओके, तो यहाँ दो चीजें हिट होती है. एक तो डायरेक्टर वाला जो पर्टिकुलर एंट्री 13/2017 में, और एक रेंटल वाला जो एंट्री 5AA में आया है इसी नोटिफिकेशन में. तो एक नोटिफिकेशन की किस एंट्री में आता है ये भी देखना बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग होगा. एंड प्लीज टेक केयर, मैं जो बोल रहा हूँ बहुत ही कॉन्शियसली बोल रहा हूँ, क्योंकि इनका इंटेंट वहीं से पता चलेगा कि ये डायरेक्टर वाली एंट्री में एक्सप्लेनेशन लेकर आना चाह रहे हैं या रेंटल वाली एंट्री में एक्सप्लेनेशन लेकर आना चाह रहे हैं. अदरवाइज इन माई व्यू, अगर इसको बहुत ही स्ट्रिक्टली रीड करूँ, जो चार्जिंग प्रोविजन है, जो स्कोप ऑफ लॉ को, अगर मैं स्कोप ऑफ सप्लाई को रीड करूँ, तो मेरे हिसाब से तो ये अपने आप में सप्लाई ही नहीं है. तो ये रिवर्स चार्ज और ये सब बातें तो बहुत बात की होगी. तो मेरा व्यू यही है कि अगर डायरेक्टर पर्सनल कैपेसिटी में रेंटल बेसिस पर भले ही कंपनी को प्रॉपर्टी प्रोवाइड करता है, राइट टू एक्सेस प्रोवाइड करता है, राइट टू यूज प्रोवाइड करता है, दैट डज नॉट फॉल अंडर द स्कोप ऑफ सप्लाई. बट यस, वही प्रॉपर्टी इन कोर्स ऑफ बिजनेस और इन फर्दरेंस ऑफ बिजनेस होगा, तो ऐसे केस में डायरेक्टर पर से वाली एंट्री में ये फॉल नहीं करेगा, क्योंकि वो एंट्री लिखी वैसे गई है. If you read that entry, it says services supplied by a director of a company or a body corporate to the said company. So in capacity of director, it is providing the same. Of course, it is not falling, this rental services is not supposed to be provided by a director in capacity of directorship. So ये तो day 0 से ही इंटरप्रेट है, और इस पे सेस्टेट के भी रिसेंटली जजमेंट आ चुका है. तो बहुत ही क्लियर रीडिंग है. डायरेक्टरशिप की कैपेसिटी में अगर उसको ये पर्टिकुलर सर्विस प्रोवाइड करना है, जो जनरली होता नहीं है, तो ऑफ कोर्स ये वाला जो पॉइंट है वो इस एंट्री में फॉल नहीं करेगा. ओके, इन कोर्स ऑफ बिजनेस होने पर ही रिवर्स चार्ज की बात हम सोच सकते हैं, अदरवाइज नहीं.
Thank you, Vivek ji, on that detail. I think you covered the last bullet as well. Now, only one question that remains over here. While
Yes.
the council has used the term private or personal capacity in the press release, what about certain professional services given by independent directors? Let's say Pranav Bhai is an independent director in the company, and the company approached him to give a written opinion on applicable GST. Or let's say you are on board a company as a director, and you're also representing the company in High Court in a capacity as an advocate, as the counsel. Okay. Or let's say rather we take it a case you are representing in a tribunal in capacity of a chartered accountant. Otherwise, advocate itself is under another reverse charge entry. So we'll simplify it. So let's say we are giving representation services or other professional services. Now, does this should we use this clarification or this intended clarification that we can expect for that private and personal capacity to rather read it as any capacity other than the capacity as a director? Maybe a professional capacity also.
Okay. again, it will not be covered under the reverse charge mechanism. Why I'm
Okay.
saying so? Because when we read the law, we have to have the comparable reading. Once we have the comparable reading with, because this entry has been covered specifically in 13/2017 by saying that by director to the company. This is entry number 6. Now if you read entry 11 or entry 12 or entry 13 of 13/2017, this says, say, I take one of the entries, that is entry number 12. It says services provided by a business facilitator to a banking company. Now, if I am the business facilitator appointed by a banking company to provide the facilitation services as may be agreed upon into the contract, अब मैं business facilitator हूँ या मैं business correspondent हूँ जो particular company को in capacity of business facilitator और agent में अगर ये services provide कर रहा हूँ, तो ऐसे केस में सिर्फ वही सर्विस जो मैं उस कैपेसिटी में प्रोवाइड कर रहा हूँ कवर होगा. If I am a director and I am providing the services in that capacity, only those services shall be covered under the particular entry of reverse charge mechanism.
Okay.
तो being a business facilitator, होता क्या है, गांव में वो कई लोग होते हैं जो business correspondent बने बैठे हैं, right? वो एजेंट है और कंपनीज को business correspondence की सर्विसेज दे रहे हैं. अब उस आदमी ने अगर मान लो एक रेंटल वो एटीएम लग जाता है उसके गांव में, अभी वो एटीएम जो लगा है वो बिजनेस कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंट की कैपेसिटी में नहीं लगा है, तो ऐसे केस में जो रेंटल अमाउंट वो कलेक्ट कर रहा है, दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी कवर्ड अंडर द रिवर्स चार्ज मैकेनिज्म. So on a basis of comparable reading, I can confidently say that this is not going to be covered under this.
Okay. I think we will give very apt clarity given by you on this topic, the point of comparable reading. I think members would have this concept registered in their minds. Any further thoughts, any inputs on this, Pranav bhai?
No. I think I fully agree with what Vivek mentioned. I think one point got missed out, that if the director has not discharged the liability, but company has already paid under RCM, will the department try to collect it from the director? Considering that this is a supply as per se, because renting has been considered a supply, we don't dwell now at this point into whether it's a supply or not.
We assume we are falling under supply.
It's covered under supply, and say the company has paid under RCM, but the director has not discharged the liability. What will happen? I think there are other judgments of the erstwhile service tax regime also, which go on to tell that you need to prove that the tax on the same transaction has got paid, and it becomes revenue neutral in the sense that the government has got tax under reverse charge mechanism. I think even under works contract services, there were judgments under the service tax law where 50/50 was to be paid, and some service recipient had paid 100% under reverse charge mechanism. So I think we can take help of those judgments and try to argue the matter that since the tax has been paid into the government treasury on that particular supply, it need not be collected again from the supplier, and the recipient has already paid on that particular supply. So I think that argument would be available for the director.
With that being said, my only expectation from the government would be, while they have given as is basis regularization for a lot of goods, the government could have given just as is basis regulation for this directors, this renting services also, because this is another Pandora's box. Whether first and foremost, supply under forward charge, reverse charge, who has to pay, who has or who doesn't have to pay, all these questions. So if the government gives a regulation of such cases on as is basis for this one as well, I think that might sort out a lot of troubles for the taxpayers.
Definitely it will.
Yes. So moving ahead from a serious topic, let's have some entertainment over here, and entertainment in form of a lot of things: composite supply, mixed supply, principal supply. I think every kind of supply being put forth over here. So I don't know whether it's a zeal of the government to reduce taxes, or whether it's a zeal of government to increase the collection of taxes. What was it, and why this clarification? All these things have come into play, whereby the government has tried to put forth that the sale of these food and beverages in the cinema hall or the exhibition hall where the movies are being showcased will be classified as restaurant services taxable at 5% when these F&B services are given to the customer independently. And if the movie hall or the cinema hall or multiplex is giving these popcorn F&B along with the tickets as a combo, it will be taxed at the rate of the tickets, whatever is applicable to the sale of tickets. My question over here, I didn't find any proposal to insert this entry in Schedule 2. Okay, Pranav, did you find any proposal to include this entry in Schedule 2, which gives a deeming fiction to the composite supplies, whether it's a supply of goods or supply of services? That's one. So now, how do I determine what is the principal supply in this composite one? Okay, if it's sold independently, they are putting it forth as a restaurant services. That's a different story to be taken up. But if I'm buying a combo of the ticket with popcorn and Pepsi, then how should I determine what is my principal supply? Whether it should be on the value, because a lot of places we see the value of the ticket is less and the value of the F&B goes higher. Whether it should be based on the intention of the seller, intention of buyer, or the intention of consumer. To give you a background of who are these three, the cinema hall, while they're giving out the tickets, let's say for 200 for a movie that has come into play, out of the 200, he may have to share 100, 150 to the copyright owner, whosoever the production house, whosoever has the copyrights to that movie. And the net revenue for the exhibition hall might be just 50. And his main intent might be to get some more revenue from the popcorn. So although the prices may be same, but what's the intent? Whose intent are we looking? Or is it my intent that I want to enjoy a movie? Or is it the intent of my kids who I'm taking along, who are coming there just to have a popcorn and the Pepsi, and they've got absolutely no interest in the movie? So whose intention do we see? Whose value do we see? How to determine what is the principal supply over here? So Pranav, if you can take the first question A over
Yes,
here.
yes. So I think as of now, what has come is only by way of the press release, as you know, as we discussed in the earlier points also. So what we are discussing is based on what is provided in the press release only, and the circular or nor any changes in law have been envisaged nor mentioned in the press release that how it is going to come, because wherever they are telling that some changes are going to happen in Schedule 3, there are certain changes which are expected in the case of actionable claim. They have mentioned it, that they will bring change in the law. But here nothing is mentioned over here, and they only mentioned that it will come by way of a circular. So I don't envisage any changes coming in Schedule Entry 2 as of now regarding provision of these services. Possibly the entire amendment or the clarification what we are telling is trying to bring out a clarity or give some benefit to the to this type of business. We can tell this movie business and the popcorn business. Okay, so now before going into your questions, let us understand that what are the combinations that are available when a person goes for seeing the movie. One is he buys the movie ticket standalone. Second, he buys, I'll take up the canned beverages thing simultaneously, because I think that is one more question
All right.
I'll take up that also simultaneously.
Okay.
One is he buys tickets, the person going to the movie buys the ticket simpliciter. Second, he buys the popcorn simpliciter. Third, he buys the canned beverages simpliciter. This is all standalone thing. This is one situation. A second situation could be a combo of movie along with canned beverages and popcorn. The third could be he buys a movie ticket separately, and he does not buy the popcorn and the canned beverages from the counter, but he orders it at his seat. That's the service that he is expecting there. Because that is where the service element will also come, right? So now what is the amendment per se? So when we try to see the amendment is trying to tell that when there is going to be a combination of ticket along with food and beverages, it will be considered to be a composite supply, and the rate as applicable to the movie ticket will be applicable to the popcorn as well as canned beverages. Basically, here we need to understand that, okay, movie tickets, if it is the ticket rate is less than 100, the rate of tax is 12%. If the ticket rate is more than 100, the rate of tax is 18%. So there are two types of tickets. Secondly, popcorn is 18%, and canned beverages is 28% plus 12% says 40%. Okay, so now that is why, since there are different rates of tax which are applicable, and say we take the first example that it's a composite supply of movie ticket plus popcorn plus the canned beverages. So what is the principal supply? So I think we have our definitions of what is a composite supply, what is the principal supply. Section 2 subsection 30 is there. Then we have section 2 subsection 92, wherein principal supply has also been defined. What is the principal supply? Basically, I think it all goes to say that what is the dominant intention of that in the composite supply. So out of the three, considering that this is a composite supply, this is not a mixed supply per se. I think we need to check whether it's a mixed supply, whether each of them are independent, or whether it's a composite supply. I think it is more appearing to be that the principal supply is that of watching the movie, and while watching the movie, enjoying the popcorn and the beverages. Because otherwise, if a person only wants to eat the popcorn and beverages, he can go into the mall and do it independently also. Because here then movie becomes the principal supply. So according to me, movie is the principal supply, and the rate as applicable to the rate of ticket should apply to the entire supply, where it is going to be a combo. Where it is going to be a independent across the counter sale, I think even the amendment which has come, now first let's go to the situation where the restaurant services are mentioned in this amendment which is proposed, and it is telling that it will be deemed to be a service. Rather, it is telling that it has been decided to clarify that supply of food and beverages in cinema halls is taxable as restaurant service as long as, so there are conditions, as long as they are supplied by way of or as a part of service. So it has to be a service, and supplied independently of the cinema exhibition services. So now the first situation we have, I think we have already considered. This is the second situation. This is where the services are being provided along with the popcorn. They are getting it at their seat, and hence, it will be deemed to be a service, and there the rate of 5% should apply. So once the rate of 5% will apply, so as of now, say the full rate was being charged and applied, there was an input tax credit which was available. Now with 5% under the restaurant category, the ITC will not be available. So that 28% is going to become a cost anyways, and plus 5% is going to get charged. As of now, that only on the differential, the margin price, 28% was being charged. Of course, it could be a matter of costing, that how it happens, or what is the margin, because margins are really very high in this category. But the thing is that once it is proved that it is a combo of services which is going to get supplied, there the rate of 5% would get charged. And what is the next question? If you can if I missed out something, yeah.
I think you have covered that. Just another offshoot, what comes into play is that when these, let's say these F&B items have now been taxed at 5% or maybe at 12% along with the movie tickets, or maybe 18%. So in certain cases, when it's taxed at 5%, there is no ITC available, as you rightly put forth, sir. So now would anti-profiting provision also come into play? Would it lead to reduction in prices? This comes from the fact that almost 6 years back, when there was a change in the rate of restaurant services from 12 and 18% to 5% standardized across, I think on 15th November 2017. There was, I think, some backlash or some issues faced by a few leading these fast food chains, that the rates of the items what are being sold have not changed. So would these multiplex owners or the cinema hall owners also be in a fix? Would they need to change something, or anti-profiting provisions do not come into play because there is no ITC now available? It's taken care of either ways by the government, sir.
I think the provisions of section 171 of anti-profiting will get triggered. At least the trigger point will be there to this, because when we read 171, it starts with any reduction in rate of tax on any supply of goods or services, or the benefit of input tax credit shall be passed on to the recipient by way of commensurate reduction in prices. So where the prices are all inclusive and the rate has changed, right? Because as of now, there it could be it is an all inclusive price, and then maybe there's a back working for the tax component. Okay, so if the base price remains the same and they are going to charge 5%, then what would happen? And what would happen if the input tax credit, which was earlier getting availed, is now not available? So I think anti-profiteering provisions would get triggered per se. The companies will have to work out any impact of anti-profiteering in such cases.
Okay.
It will get triggered.
They will have to at least have a background working.
Yes,
Whether
yes,
they
yes.
are at par or benefited. If they are benefited, they have to pass on the benefits to the consumers.
Even McDonald was succumbed to these anti-profiteering provisions, and they had a inquiry on about it.
Correct.
It is going to be there.
Now, sir, while we are talking about all these ITCs and anti-profiteering, how does the exhibitor, the multiplex owner, take credit towards the purchase of the popcorn kernels and the beverages being dispensed from the let's say given in the glass? So certain patrons come to me at the counter, buy just the popcorn and Pepsi. Certain patrons buy it along with the movie ticket, and they show their voucher at the counter. So for the patrons who are buying it on the F&B counter, I'm charging them 5% GST. For the patrons who are getting the combo along with the ticket, I'm charging them 12% or 18% GST based on the price of the ticket. How should I take credits? Based on the weight, values, quantity, how? How should one really reconcile?
Yeah, so I think if identifiable, so the base is that if you are able to identify it while each of this category of items being sold or supplied, then you need to go on value only, because there is no provision for going into quantity in the law. But yes, in case if you are able to identify, okay, this is the quantity which I purchased, this is the quantity which I sold, this is the value of that quantity, and this is how I arrived at on, then yes, you may at least succeed if you are able to keep those records. But practically, I think it might not be feasible to keep such records of which purchase has gone into which kind of supply or sale, right? So so ultimately, the sales value only would have to come into play for all practical purposes. And even I think the law is not clarifying anywhere that you find it out on quantity basis.
I think quantity reconciliation would only be available at the invoice level if you have the segregation, and maybe we can show that there's a separate counter for people who want to buy it F&B at the counter, and separate counter for dispensing the combos.
Yeah.
So that could be one thing, but I don't think so that's very practically possible. Now, I don't know, it's a matter of coincidence or what. Just a few days back, I saw some news and some things going on social media, sir, on Twitter, whereby a certain person, maybe possibly an influencer, had given left, right, center to a leading multiplex chain over the exorbitant prices of the popcorn and the aerated beverages. And taking a cue that yes, the Twitter was maybe possibly influence or something that sort, and it would lead to negative publicity. That leading multiplex has now given out a scheme whereby you get unlimited F&B refills for the popcorn or the beverage or the burgers, whatever you're having over there. So now, does this kind of a scheme change the principal supply? Although I want to watch a movie, now let me take this in an example. Now, if I want to watch a movie and have popcorn and Pepsi along with that, now going to multiplex A, where these are given in a limited manner, you have already put forth that yes, the principal supply appears to be the exhibition of the movie and the rate of tax applies to that. Now, since I'm going along with my kids who likes to munch right from the start of the movie till the end of the movie, keep on munching on popcorn and keep on drinking Pepsi. And just to have my peace of mind, I decided to go to multiplex B, who offers this unlimited refills. And whereby my kid can keep on eating it and I enjoy the movie. Now, does the principal supply change over here in such cases?
Again, the dominant intention will apply, but I think the principal supply, again, in these cases would remain the movie only, because otherwise popcorn and beverages can be taken outside also. So I think with the movie, the base is the movie for it, and I think the principal supply will remain the movie only.
Okay. I think even I share that view, because
But
when
do
I am
go
buying the
with your
movie
kid.
ticket,
Do go with your kid and have some popcorns and beverages after all these discussions. and it's a weekend too.
no, that's a very personal question, because I when going along with my 5-year-old, it's basically I cannot watch the movie, so I rather prefer to go in a multiplex where there's unlimited popcorn, and let the kid keep on eating throughout the movie. I can enjoy my movie. So I think while buying the ticket, my intention again is to watch my movie peacefully.
So it is the intention of the buyer and not the intention of the consumer.
Yes.
Because you are buying as a father. So
Yes.
and anyways, for this also the intention of the buyer also plays a very dominant role, that what is the recipient of that service or supply. Or what is the intention of the supply of the recipient, and I think it is the intention of the buyer which will matter.
Sure. So Vivek, on these all 3 or 4 points, any further thought process? You're muted, Vivek.
Sir, I think everything has been covered.
Okay. All right. So with this one sect of entertainment on popcorn, movies and popcorns, I think the second sect of entertainment on the online gaming will cover at the end. That might take up some time, and without the actual amendments coming into play, we'll take that amendment on the online gaming at the very end with the consent of the faculties. We'll move on to the next question. Okay. So lot of cases, there have been clerical errors by the taxpayers or their consultants or the staff. While filing GST, I one mistakenly have punched in one extra zero in the taxable value column or the tax column, and filed my GSTR 3B correctly. So there is an over declaration of values in GSTR 1 and a proper declaration of values in GSTR 3B. Now I have possibly failed to correct my mistake or notice my mistake within the deadlines given under the provisions earlier till September of next financial year, now till 30th November of next financial year. And I failed to correct my mistakes, and thereafter I'm now getting notices for the furnishing explanation. So earlier I was getting these notices for furnishing explanations. Now I am slated to get notice for recovery of taxes, whereby the government is contemplating a direct recovery of taxes if you have declared more tax in your GST 1, treating this as an accepted tax liability. And if there is a shortfall in of that tax in GST 3B, unless until you have given you have made your rectifications or given a satisfactory explanation, these will be a case of direct recovery from the taxpayers. So Vivekji, my question to you over here is, by virtue of these mechanism of direct recoveries, is the government trying to bypass the need for proper adjudication proceedings under section 73, under section 74, and give out a speaking orders which you or Pranav can assist the taxpayers in filing appeals? Is this direct recovery mode valid, especially if that mistake in GSTR 1 of over declaration is a clerical mistake? There is no supply to that extent, and the government can directly recover those taxes without actual supply taking place just because of a clerical error? Vivekji.
So the very first point is the levy is there on supply only. Okay. In case if I have over declared the value and obligor tax thereupon, of course, government has to initiate some action against it. But that does not mean that they could bypass the principle of natural laws, because nothing is beyond the principle of natural laws. So just by giving a particular intimation, one cannot say that there is no need of adjudication. And if you carefully read Rule 88C, sub Rule 3, it uses the wording. Rule 88C, sub Rule 1. it says that where the tax payable by registered person furnished by him in form GSTR 1 exceeds the amount of tax payable furnished in the form GSTR 3B by such amount and such percentage as may be recommended by council, the said registered person shall be intimated of such difference in part A of DRC 01B. So they are supposed to, they are, you know, they will send the intimation to the registered person that why there is a difference. If you agree with this, pay the differential liability, otherwise explain it. And then they say that, you know, when you explain it and if it is not satisfactory explanation, you know, at the behest of the proper officer, in that case, they may initiate it. Okay. तो इसका मतलब तो ये हो गया कि बस आपका एक्सप्लेनेशन उनको सेटिस्फैक्टरी नहीं लगा और उन्होंने आपका सेक्शन 79 में रिकवरी प्रोसीडिंग इनिशिएट कर दिया. To my understanding, it is not following the basic principle of adjudication and the natural laws, because everything has to pass through that only. And again, by way of a comparative reading, you know, I give you I take you ahead with this section 62, assessment of non-filers of returns. So what happens in case if you do not furnish the return, you know, they send you the notice in section 45 in GSTR 3A. Okay. And in case if you do not furnish the return as contemplated by section 45 in form 3A, right? That is the period of 15 days. Then you have to face the next proceeding, that is section 62. And then they issue the order. Okay. The order of assessment shall be issued in ASMT 13. तो अभी यहाँ पर भी क्या हुआ है, उन्होंने एक नोटिस दिया और सीधा सा उन्होंने एक असेसमेंट किया, एंड दैट इज असेसमेंट ऑफ नॉन फाइलर्स ऑफ रिटर्न. तो 3A में भी उन्होंने नोटिस दिया है और यहाँ पर भी उन्होंने, अगर इफ यू रीड रूल 88C, यहाँ भी उन्होंने एक इंटीमेशन दिया. तो नोटिस इज नॉट अ शोकोज नोटिस. अगर आप वहां पर भी देखेंगे, दैट इज नॉट अ शोकोज नोटिस. सो देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन नोटिस एंड शोकोज नोटिस. And showcase notice has to comprise of number of credentials, and there has been a circular, if I'm not wrong, circular 1053 or 1073, you know, issued by CBC in the service tax act. तो कोई भी एडजुडिकेशन का एक प्रोसेस है और उस प्रोसेस को फॉलो किए बिना आप ऑर्डर इशू नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि वो नेचुरल प्रिंसिपल ऑफ लॉ के अगेंस्ट है. तो मेरे हिसाब से आने वाले टाइम में चैलेंज होने ही वाला है, ऐसा मेरा व्यू है.
What about your inputs on this issue?
I think similar only. Only thing is that in Rule 62, it has mentioned notwithstanding anything contained in 73 or 74. I don't think here in this 1 versus 3B, it is mentioned anywhere in notwithstanding anything contained in 73, 74. So I think that can get challenged. But what they are trying to do over here is they are trying to give an intimation. Like for the show cause notice also, first we get the intimation in 01A and then we get the 01. So we get the chance that the actual show cause notice has not been received. And possibly here this 01D is also trying to get aligned to that proposition that this is an intimation. In case you agree, you pay so that you don't have any penal consequences. If you agree, you pay. If you don't agree, then okay, then we will take up the processes as per section 73 and 74. I think that appears to be the objective of this.
And yes, just to add it, because Parliament has given the provisions for rectification, right? And rectification has been prescribed in 37.3 and 39.9. Okay. So 37.3 में मेरे पास में rectification, even if I do not reply, I am not saying that one should not be duty bound taxpayer. One should be duty bound taxpayer, but by because of any reason, if someone has not furnished the satisfactory reply or by whatever way of submission, you know, it does not, it cannot forfeit my right being given under section 37(3) and 39(9). Okay, so I always possess the opportunity to rectify the same, regardless of whatever has been mentioned in Rule 88C, Sub Rule 3 or Rule 142. तो ये जो rules हैं वो मेरे section के दिए हुए powers को compromise करके आगे नहीं जा सकते. ओके, तो ऑफ कोर्स वो एडजुडिकेशन मेरे हिसाब से होना ही चाहिए, और इन केस इफ दे गो इन सो आर्बिट्रेरी मैनर इट इज गोइंग टू बी चैलेंज्ड. तो ये वो डे इन डे आउट का हिस्सा है, मेरे को हर महीने ये सब फेस करना पड़ सकता है बिकॉज ऑफ एनी रीजन. तो ऐसे केस में ये मेरे हिसाब से आने वाले समय का बहुत ही प्रेवलेंट मुद्दा होगा. जिस तरीके से GSTR 2A 3B के डिफरेंसेस पे बात हुई है, वैसे ही 1 और 3B पे अभी बहुत कुछ हो हल्ला हो जाएगा.
Correct, but I think this should be considered as an opportunity for the taxpayers to get an intimation that there are issues and you need to rectify the same at the earliest. I think
I agree, but that is why the rule has also mentioned or has used the terminology intimation. So when
Right.
the intimation is there, you cannot say that this is the final adjudication.
exactly.
Okay, तो अभी इसको हमको Rule 88C और Rule 142B जो अब ये लेकर आने वाले हैं, they cannot deprive the reading of section 37(3) or 39(9).
Exactly, right. Recovery cannot be made immediately. So unless
Yes.
until they follow all the processes of section
Yes.
7.
Yes.
Main issue that comes into place, if I have an appealable order, then I can file an appeal and get a stay. If the government goes on to take recovery, that is when things get very ugly.
Yes, but the order has to be backed by adjudication proceeding. This is what the discussion between all of us is. Right? Order कोई भी order नहीं हो सकता ना. So it's like Talibani order, with due respect, right? तो okay, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि आप adjudication proceeding को करेंगे नहीं और आप एक order दे देंगे और अब मैं चला जाऊंगा अपील में. ओके, और अपील में आप मुझसे फिर कहेंगे 10% ऑफ डिस्प्यूटेड टैक्स आप डिपॉजिट करिए. देयर मे नॉट बी द पॉसिबिलिटी और देयर मे नॉट बी द फिजिबिलिटी टू डू सो, राइट? ऑफ कोर्स दिस इज द वायलेशन ऑफ माय फंडामेंटल राइट ऑफ डूइंग द बिजनेस एज कंटेम्प्लेटेड अंडर आर्टिकल 19(1)(g), राइट? तो इतना एक्सेस में वो चीजों को ले जाएंगे तो ऑफ कोर्स वहाँ लिटिगेशन होना ही है. और इन टाइम्स टू कम it's my understanding that it is going to be decided by the court of law.
All right. Okay. Got it, sir. So I think we should be expecting some proper speaking orders from the officers before they start the recovery proceedings, and we should be having ideally that's the situation, we should be having the opportunity for appeals before these
Yes.
recoveries are done.
Yes.
Moving ahead, sir. The biggest controversy, I think, of GST for the past 6 years: cross charge or no cross charge. What is cross charge mechanism? The concept of branch transfers, very welcome. The concept of cross charge intent generator services and distribution credit through cross charge or ISD mechanism. Now the council has given some recommendations to make this ISD provisions mandatory prospectively, and maybe possibly do ahead with this concept of distribution of credit through cross-charge invoices. So now, in case certain companies are getting some input tax credits from third-party service providers, let's say, Pranav, you are giving advisory or compliance services to the head office for the pan-India operations for all their branches all across India. So does your client, does your company now need to take ISD registration and they cannot distribute the credit of your invoice under cross-charge invoice? Should they immediately register for ISD, or still there is some time for them to analyze these things? And yes, there will be this concept of ISD will be implemented prospectively, but it's a distant future that we see.
Right. Yes. So I think a big controversy whether ISD or cross charge. I think the government has deep dived into this and tried to resolve it to some extent, I can say, via this clarification. This press release has been followed by a circular 199 has been issued in this regards, and therein they have explained that what are the transactions between the HO and the branch, where cross charge could be applicable, what could be the value of cross charge in such cases, what happens if whether the employee expenses have been included in the cross charge or whether they have not been included in cross charge, what happens in cases where the recipient to whom the cross charge has been made, say from HO to branch, if there is a cross charge which has been made, and the recipient, whether it is eligible for full input tax credit or is not eligible for full input tax credit, then whether the second proviso to Rule 28 would apply and whether that valuation will be accepted or not accepted. So these various parameters have been taken care of in the circular number 199, which has come. So as of now, all the companies were in a dilemma that whether they should follow the ISD mechanism or whether they should follow the cross-charge mechanism. Secondly, whether the ISD mechanism is mandatory or not, and whether even after following the ISD mechanism, there could still be situations where a cross-charge could be levied. So these were all the points that were being discussed. Some of these points have been sought to be clarified by the circular. Now, the first thing which they have mentioned in this council, as we can see on the screen, is that it has been recommended to make ISD mandatory prospectively for distribution of ITC receipt from third-party service providers. So, so as of now, although the ISD provisions were there on statute all these years, it was not mandatory, and this was the view which was taken up by most of the professionals, that ISD is not mandatory. It's a provision which is there on the statute, but it's an option which could be exercised. And now, rightly so, the government has come out with this press release and has mentioned that they will be making ISD mandatory from a date to be notified. So let's wait for that notification for that date, and from that date onwards, ISD registration will become mandatory. Like in the example which Sumit now gave that, say if professional services are being provided to the HO, which and those professional services are for all the branches of that company, then in such cases, the company will have to definitely route it through the ISD mechanism. They will have to take a separate ISD registration number, and through the ISD mechanism, they will have to route, or they will have to transfer, or they will have to distribute the input services which are being received as a common services for the entire company as a whole on a pan-India basis. So I think that will come, but as I said, it will be applicable from a date to be notified. The date is not yet notified for that to make it mandatory. So we'll have to wait for that. And of course, once that is notified, the companies will have to obtain the ISD registration number and do the needful. The second question is that what happens to cross charge once that gets implemented? Then whether cross charge would still have to be levied, or will it not be required to be levied? Now again, that will depend on various situations, on various facts of the case. In case if there are only few services which are received by the head office, which are required to be distributed to the branches, then in such cases, if the company is following the ISD route, and then they may not be required to do any cross charge. But in case if the company or the head office of the company is providing certain other services to its branches, say accounting services, collection services, banking services, there could be so many other services for which there may not be any services which are liable for input tax credit, but those are expenses which are incurred. They may not be routed. Say the company could be paying rent. The person who is providing rent, he is not under GST. The company is paying rent for the office, and that office is being used for all the functions of the entire company on pan-India basis. Okay, so then in such cases, whether a cross charge could get triggered, the answer is yes, the cross charge could get triggered, and there could be various other such. This rent paid is one such example for the office, and there could be other office admin expenses also. So in such cases, yes, cross charge would still apply. So the answer is that taking a mandatory ISD registration number will not absolve the company from charging cross charge if it is applicable otherwise. So I think that the company will have to look into. So cross charge would still remain. No cross charge may not come except in for a few cases. right?
So I think
What else? Yeah.
with that being there, I think another welcome clarification by the government was that the employee cost need not be included for those such internally generated services. What you just listed, accounting, collections, and all these other things. The employee cost need not be included in the value of cross charge, even when the recipient branch is not eligible for full ITC. So what is the dilemma to the taxpayers for the advance rulings? I believe there are certain advance rulings already in the domain where the authorities have ruled that yes, the employee cost is to be included.
Right.
Trade and industry has been arguing for past 6 years that the employee is not an employee of the branch, but employee of the entire company, and that cost is not to be included. The authorities have not relented.
Right.
And now with this coming into play by virtue of a circular, not an amendment in the law, what happens to the advance rulings? Is it still binding upon me, or do I have a recourse?
Right. So the first point is that whether in the value of cross charge, the employee cost should be included or should not be included. This was a dilemma. This was a controversy. And of course, the ARs had ruled against the taxpayers, and some of the ARs were mentioning that employee cost needs to be included. And more so, say some employees, they could be dedicated to a branch. That is fair enough. But there are so many employees, there could be so many other employees in the organization. What about the directors? What about the CFOs who are getting, huge salaries? Whether that allocation of salaries of those CFOs or CEOs or the directors' remuneration should also be done. That was a big question. I think there was a view prevalent in most of the cases that employee cost should not be covered under cross charge. And many companies had taken a stand, except if the employee is directly dedicated to a particular branch or branches. There, that employee cost was being cross-charged. In other cases, the companies have taken a stand. So, a very good clarification which has come by way of this circular that employee cost need not be included. So, I think it's a very welcome clarification which has come. Now, so now again, the second point was regarding the valuation. So whatever valuation the company has taken, so right from beginning, when this cross charge, see, let's understand one thing, that there is no definition of cross charge, nor the word cross charge has anywhere been mentioned in the entire GST law, nor in this circular. Even in this circular, the word is used internally generated invoices, internally generated services. Internal generated services word has been used and not cross charge. So there is no such word as cross charge in the law, but as a terminology, like Cadbury, everything is every chocolate is a Cadbury. So every internally generated invoice is a cross charge. So per se, so there was a question of valuation in this. Rule 28 was there. There was a second proviso to Rule 28, which was very clear otherwise that whatever, say, if the recipient of this cross-charge services was eligible for full input tax credit, then whatever value is mentioned in the invoice, that would be considered to be the value of that cross-charge, and no questions would be asked about it. Now, the circular has clearly clarified on this point that wherever the company is eligible for full ITC, whatever value is taken, that will be exempt, that will be accepted. Even if 1 rupee is taken, that will be accepted. Even if nil value is taken, that also will be accepted as a valuation, because the company values that value at nil. So in case the cross-charge invoice has not been issued at all, this was a big dilemma that cross-charge, many companies had not issued cross-charge invoices. They have missed it out, or for so many reasons. Okay. So now that cross-charge invoice has not been issued at all. Then in such cases, even if the value is nil or no invoice has been issued, in such cases, we can say it's a nil invoice, the value is nil. No cross-charge has been made. There should be no liability on the company who was required to do a cross-charge. And I think this will apply in the future years also, where we are telling that whether ISD, after ISD coming into play, whether cross-charge will remain. So for the future years also, this point will remain that, okay, if the company considers this as a nil value, then it's a nil value. So the only point will come where the recipient company is not eligible for full input tax credit. There the questions of valuation would still remain, otherwise it will not remain. Coming to your next point regarding what happens to the AARs which are given against the taxpayers, I was just going to the section 103 subsection 2 regarding the AARs. subsection 2 reads that the advance ruling referred to in subsection 1 and in subsection 1A shall be binding unless the law, facts, or circumstances supporting the original advance ruling have changed. So here, maybe, so first point is that if any impact is going to come, it is going to come only on those companies who have gone for advance ruling. Other companies which have taken shelter of those advance ruling or have taken some cue from that advance ruling, there is no impact on them. As far as the companies which have gone for advance ruling, here there will be an argument to say that there are circumstances supporting the, which, there are circumstances that have changed. Now there is although there is no change in law, of course, there is going to be a change in law regarding ISD. There is going to be a change in law regarding ISD, that is also going to support them. Plus the circumstances have changed, a new circular has come, a beneficial circular has come, which is there for, which is in favor of the taxpayer. And since that has changed, I think the companies will be able to take benefit of the circular.
All right. Vivek bhai, quickly, any further thoughts on this aspect?
I think, I have the same view with the background that whatever has to be levied should be backed by the charging provision. Okay. And even if the advance ruling is there and if something comes out as new, being a beneficiary provision and with the intention of the law, one should abide it.
Okay. Quickly moving, sir, with the short question. The government has given the same relaxations for 99C what were applicable for previous year, financial year 21-22, and the same to be continued for 22-23 also. Also clarified that taxpayers who are having their annual turnover below 2 crore filing GST and 9 is optional. My only dilemma remains with respect to GST and 9C, the self-certified and reconciliation form. Section 44 states that this self-certified reconciliation statement, it may be filed, whereas Rule 80, which goes for the filing of annual return and the reconciliation statement, states that 9C shall be filed. So in this case, Vivek ji, should we be reading this may in section 44 as shall? Or is the rule traveling beyond the scope of the provision? That's a short question.
In my view, that's not the case. The reading is a different type of reading in my way, because when I read section 44, as you have also displayed over here, it says every registered person other than so and so shall furnish annual return which may include a self-certified reconciliation statement. So the wording is which may include. So annual return which may include. Are you getting my point? So it is not like who may include. Okay, this is which may include. So annual return which may include. So of course 9 and 9C both have the applicability regardless of the wording may or shall. Okay, because this is not talking about applicability as such, that in what case it should be, or it is not talking about the discretionary provision or the voluntary provision. Okay, it is talking about that the registered person shall furnish an annual return, full stop. Now 9 and 9C both are covered under the wording that is annual return. Previously, we had section 44 and 35.5. Now 35.5 is omitted. So everything is part of annual return only. In common parlance, we generally say that, GSTR 9 and reconciliation statement, right? So reconciliation statement and GSTR 9, both are part of the annual return only. The applicability of 9 and 9C, yes, of course, that differs based on the threshold of the aggregate turnover.
Okay. Pranav bhai?
Yeah, I agree. I think we always consider 9 9C as twins. They both go hand in hand. Only thing is they are not conjoined twins because up to 2 lakhs and up to 2 crores and 5 crores, there is a differential treatment for them. Apart from that, I think they always go together.
All right. So I think that gives some clarity to our participants whether they are really actually supposed to file 9C when their turnover is more than 5 crores. Another welcome clarification by the government on the issue of reversal of IGST, whereby they have put forth that the input tax credit balance of IGST, CGST, SGST, all three should be taken together, and only if the cumulative balance falls below your reversal amount, the interest should be applied under Section 50. Very welcome provision and very apt reasoning also, that since you can use CGST, SGST for payment of IGST, so that balance should also be taken into consideration. Now, the only point that remains is that can we blindly apply the same fundamental for cases where we have to reverse CGST and SGST, whereby should we take the balance of CGST and IGST together whenever we are reversing CGST and seeing the applicability on interest on that CGST component? And should we take the value of SGST and IGST together when we are reversing SGST and computing the interest on SGST portion? Pranav bhai.
Yeah, so circular 192 has been issued, and as rightly mentioned by Sumit, it only speaks about cumulative effect while calculating reversal. For IGST, it mentions nothing has been clarified regarding what happens in the case of if CGST is required to be reversed or SGST is required to be reversed. But going through the wordings of the circular, and it appears that the same analogy should apply to CGST and SGST also, though not specifically clarified over here. But the same analogy should apply to CGST and IGST also, SGST also, because when we go to the clarification, no, it starts with the wording, since the amount of input tax credit available in the electronic credit ledger under any of the heads IGST, CGST or SGST can be utilized for payment of the liability of IGST. I think if IGST per se can be utilized for CGST, IGST can be utilized for SGST, then I think that this analogy should apply to CGST and SGST also. Of course, SGST to CGST and CGST to SGST is never allowed and will not be allowed over here. But I think at least IGST should be allowed under to respective CGST and SGST. I think that analogy should apply.
Vivek ji, do you concur with this concept, or do you have a different take on this?
I agree with this, with the background of Section 50, Section 50, subsection P to be read with Rule 88B, Subrule 3. Okay. Rule 88B, Subrule 3 says, in case where interest is payable on the amount of ITC wrongly availed and utilized in accordance with 50, subsection 3, the interest shall be calculated on the amount of ITC wrongly availed and utilized for the period so and so. So here the wording is written as, yes, I am very thankful to you that you have shown this. You read it again, Rule 88B, Subrule 3. It says, in case where interest is payable on the amount of ITC wrongly availed and utilized. Now ITC is ITC, because if you read the definition of ITC that is given under Section 2 Clause 62 and 63, right? So that says input tax credit includes the CGST, SGST, IGST all. Okay. So this clarification has been issued in the light of Rule 88B, Subrule 3 in my understanding. Right, and that is why this clarification has been issued. So this clarification is backed by the wording of input tax credit used in Rule 88B, Subrule 3 consciously.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think a very welcome clarification by the government on that. Quickly moving ahead, sir. The government has also given certain clarification with respect to the reconciliation for the input tax credit. We are already seen a circular by the state government, Trade Circular 2A of 2022 for reconciliation of your 17, 18 and 18, 19 ITCs, wherever it was not appearing in GST 2A, followed by a circular by the central government in December 2022 on similar lines for 17, 18, 18, 19. Now the council has recommended for similar provisions, similar procedure to be followed for 1st April 19 till 31st December 21, whereby basically 1st January 22, when Section 16 Clause 2 subclause AA was inserted and GST 2B was officially made mandatory. Thereafter, you're getting credits only to that extent what is visible in GST 2B. But other than that, from April 19 till December 21, they were recommended for similar procedure to be followed for reconciliation of these input tax. While we are reconciling these input tax credit, I am all happy about it. My only hiccup that remains, this circular that has been issued places a restriction on the reconciliation scope from 9th October 2019, that is when Rule 36.4 was introduced, and states that this reconciliation will be limited to the extent of 20% or 10% or 5%, whatever the Rule 36.4 prescribed at that relevant point of time. And this reconciliation will be limited only to that extent. So to give an example, let's say I had taken a credit of 5 lakh in my 3B, and what was visible in GST 2A at that time was only 3 lakhs. So now you will be able to give a certificate or that declaration and get benefit only to the extent of 20% of 3 lakhs, which was visible in your GST 2A. So you'll be getting benefit of only 60,000, not the entire 2 lakh what for which we will be giving the reconciliation or the certification from the vendors. So is this limitation by the circular traveling beyond the recommendation of the council, whereby they have prescribed for the similar procedure to be used? And does this Rule 36.4 even have some validity or have some legal basis in absence of its parent provisions 42, section 42, 43 and section 43A more specifically? All these provisions, section 43 never saw the light of the day and it was omitted from the act altogether. So will this restriction of reconciliation only to the extent of 10%, 20% or 5% as given in the circular, can it be challenged or do we have to really abide by it? Pranav bhai.
Yeah, I think this can be challenged because the way the wordings have come. So first of all, the amendment mentions that for 17, 18, 18, 19, there were circulars that that gave benefit in case of 3 or 4 instances where the supplier has actually paid tax into the government treasury, but there have been certain errors, and that is why the recipient is not able to see the credit in its 2A. So that is so that circular have got extended to 1/4/19 till 31st December 21. Of course, within that there are 3 or 4 breakups of each of the periods. So from 1/4/19 to I think it was 8th October 2019. The provision as was there in 17, 18, 18, 19, that would apply for that period, and full input tax credit would be available. And after that, since there was a Rule 36.4, they have mentioned that input tax credit only to the extent of say 20%, say from 8th October 19 till 31st December 19, then input tax extent to the extent of 10% of eligible credit available in 2A from 1st January 2020. 21 to 31st December 2020 to 31st December, and then it was 5%. I think the dates are there. Yeah. So for each of these periods, to the extent of what is the eligible credit available in 2A, the differential will be available. And then from 1st January 2022, section 16(2) AA has been introduced and made effective. And there the section makes it very clear that in case if the input tax credit is not getting reflected in 2A, the same will not be available. And of course, after that, we have seen the onset of 2B, and nowadays it is only 2B which is operational, and 2A has taken a backseat. But fundamentally, the question is that whether 36.4 rule at per se was correct, whether there were powers to give such a benefit through the rules or restrict it through the rules. See, the government feels that they have given some powers or some benefit to the dealers that if it is not matching, okay, we'll give you 20%, 10%, 5%. But per se, is this a benefit or is it a curtailment of right? which is which is available to the taxpayer. I think 36(4) does not have that sanctity of law. Although it has come by way of a rule through 168, but I think section 16 does not envisage anything, any curtailment of such sort, and that is why they had to subsequently get it amended to include it in section 16(2)AA. So according to me, even though some relief is being provided by this circular, it's an eyewash. I think wherever beneficial, of course, the taxpayer should take the benefit of this circular and abide by it. But in case if still it is not available, I think it's a good ground to fight and claim your input tax credit.
Vivek ji, the same question to you with one additional point is that if I was within that ambit of 20%, 10% or 5% under 36(4), let's say I had taken 100 rupee was visible in my GST at 2A at that time, and I had taken 110, just 10 rupee extra, I was eligible for 20 extra. Do I even need to go for this reconciliation procedure and this circular? An additional question.
Could you please repeat it?
Yeah, sure. So one is the validity of this circular whereby they are restricting the percentages of the reconciliation. That is one. The second question that just came to my mind over here is that, let's say the value in my GST at 2A was 100. What I had taken in my 3B in, let's say, November 2019 was 110, just 10% extra, well within the limit of 20% of 36(4). So for that extra 10 that I have taken, do I even need to follow this procedure? Or can I claim my 10% extra was very well within the ambit of law under 36(4)? So why do I even need to give a reconciliation or certification for my vendors for that extra 10?
Okay. Sir, as you both of the speakers have discussed about it, I just want to add one point. First of all, this circular 193 has been brought out with the background of circular 183. Okay. And 183 para 4.1. If you read para 4.1, it says, in order to verify the conditions of section 16 subsection 2 clause C, the tax on the said supply has been paid by the supplier, the following actions may be taken by the proper officer. So exactly इनको क्या चाहिए? इनको ये चाहिए कि section 16 की condition satisfied हो जाए. The bone of contention is this only. Okay, and the same wording has been written over here also. This circular 193. So 183 and 193 both do use this particular statement. In order to verify section 16(2) clause C, ये सारा का सारा रामायण आपको करना है. Okay, तो पॉइंट ये है कि आपका बैकग्राउंड है 16(2) को सेटिस्फाई करना. अब उसके लिए आप 20%, 10%, 5%, whatever कुछ भी आप करना चाहते हैं, आपका मकसद क्या है? आपका मकसद है 16(2) को सेटिस्फाई करना. तो वो करना है तो आप सर्टिफिकेट से वो भी कर सकते हैं ना. तो आपका जो ये प्रोसीजर आपने ले डाउन किया है, ये प्रोसीजर कहीं लॉ में है थोड़ी कि आपके एंटाइटलमेंट को प्रूव करने के लिए आपको चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, कॉस्ट अकाउंटेंट का सर्टिफिकेट लेना पड़ेगा, सामने वाले मैनेजमेंट का सर्टिफिकेट लेना. ये तो कहीं लॉ में नहीं है. चाहे सेक्शन 168 के थ्रू ये सर्कुलर लेकर आया गया हो. ओके, सर्कुलर सेक्शन 168 की पावर को अगर इन्होंने यूज किया, आई एम नॉट श्योर कि क्या 183 को 168 की पावर से यूज की पावर से लाया गया. आई डोंट थिंक सो ये ऐसा हुआ है. अगर ये हुआ भी है तो सेक्शन 168 cannot override the entitlement conditions laid down in section 16. So ये जितने भी प्रोसीजर लाए गए, अगर आप सिंप्लीफिकेशन के तौर पे लाए गए, बेनिफिशियल के तौर पर लाए गए, तब तक किसी को चैलेंज नहीं करना, ऑफ कोर्स. ओके, बट सर्कुलर क्या है? सर्कुलर इज नथिंग बट द इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ डिपार्टमेंट, राइट? Now, if they are clarifying in that style, which does not suit the reading of the law, I am not bound to follow this. Okay, तो इन्होंने जितनी भी ये सब कुछ कंडीशन लिखी है कि नहीं 9 अक्टूबर के बाद में ये सब आपको नहीं करना है, उससे पहले के लिए ये सर्टिफिकेट है, और या विद इन दैट एम्बिट आपके लिए मतलब आपको सर्टिफिकेट लेना है, उसके बियॉन्ड जो परसेंटेज के बियॉन्ड आपको ये सर्टिफिकेट का कोई रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है, मतलब आप सर्टिफिकेट के थ्रू आप रिलीफ नहीं ले सकते। तो ये जितनी भी चीजें लिखी गई हैं, that does not suit the reading of the law, and in my view that is bad in the law.
Rather, if they wanted to give the benefit, they should have told that other than 20%, whatever you want to claim differential, you claim it.
Actually इनको 16(2)(c) चाहिए ना, तो वो आप वैसे भी कर सकते हो ना।
20%
इनको 16
किया ही था उन्होंने, so 20% benefit was given. So, but then whatever additional benefit they want to give to the circular, they should have given. They have
एक्चुअली इन्होंने इसको एक्सेप्ट नहीं किया है कि इनकी गलती थी, ठीक है, इनकी गलती छिपाने के लिए सब कर रहे हैं। एंड आप देखिए ना, आप इसको रीड करते हैं सर्कुलर 193 को, ओके, आई एम जस्ट गोइंग वेरी कैजुअली, इट सेज even though the availability of ITC was, मतलब even though the availability of ITC was subject to restrictions and conditions specified in section 16, okay, और फिर उन्होंने बताया कि हम आप पे एहसान कर रहे हैं, ओके, मतलब उन्होंने वो पूरा, क्योंकि अब वो अपना गलती तो आगे से एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर सकते, ओके, अगर उनको 36(4) की वैलिडिटी एक्सेप्टेड है तो फिर 16(2) लाने की जरूरत नहीं थी, जैसा आपने बोला,
यस,
ओके, ओके। अब अंदर ही अंदर इनको पता है, लेकिन इन्होंने उस चीज को एक्सेप्ट पब्लिकली करना नहीं है, करेंगे तो एक नया बवाल खड़ा होगा ऑब्वियसली, ओके, एंड दे विल फील शेमफुल, बिकॉज वो फिर बिल्कुल ओपन हो जाएगा, तो उसको छिपाने के लिए इनको ऐसे ऐसे वर्डिंग्स यूज करने पड़े, ऐसा मेरा व्यू।
राइट,
Very aptly put forth. So I think we all, for all taxpayers who are within that 20% bracket, 10%, 5%, circular is very much beneficial. But even if you are beyond that 10%, 20%, 5% thing, you still have hopes left. You can challenge it and you can claim it subject to satisfying provisions of section 16 subsection 2 clause C.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I think we'll be running out of time, so we'll move very quickly here on. So, GST Appellate Tribunal, much awaited for past 6 years, their government has now recommended for notifying the provisions of Finance Act 23 related to GST Appellate Tribunal. So now, sir, a lot of taxpayers have their appeals for the GST Appellate Tribunal pending to be filed. So do we need to start working from 1st August 23? What's the last date when which this your time limit for filing the appeal starts? Is it from the a date when the GST appeal facility is given on the portal, notification of principal bench, notification of state bench, or the president of GST Appellate Tribunal enters the office? There are multiple dates. I've just listed 3 or 4 of them. So from when does this time limit of 3 months or 4 months prescribed in the law start?
Yeah, so I think very briefly, the time limit as mentioned in circular number 132/2 of 2020, it mentions that it is 3 months from the date the president or the state president enters office. So the president of the principal bench or the president of the state bench, wherever the appeal is going to get filed, just the difference is that normally all cases would come to the state bench. Some of the cases where place of supply is involved, they would go to the principal bench. So there are respective presidents of each of the benches. Once they assume office, and of course that will be publicly made available, that the president is, because that they will have to do that, otherwise the public will not come to know. They will have to come out with that, and then within 3 months after that, the appeals will have to be filed from the date the president assumes the office of the respective tribunal.
Vivek ji?
Yes, sir.
We have any further information on this front, sir? We have the same.
Everything is same, sir.
Okay. Another concept apart from the fake ITC, now the issue of fake registrations. Now, I find it I was very bemused when they mentioned that if you don't mention your bank, fill in the details of a bank account on the GST registration, it will be suspended. Once you furnish your bank account details on the GST portal, the suspension will be revoked and all these things. And all these things are being done to take care of the menace of fake registration. So does it really take care of the menace of fake registration, Vivek ji? Just if I am going for fake registration, would I not even furnish my bank account detail if I'm using someone else's details, bank, Aadhaar, PAN, and all those things on some fudged documents? How much can I not fetch my bank account details? So is this suspension and revocation of registration due to non-furnishing of bank account detail on the portal really taking care of the menace of fake registration? We are not on the topic of fake ITC, friends. We are talking only on the fake registration front. Yes, sir. Pranav, your take on this?
Yeah, so I think the Rule 10A was specifically introduced, to curb the fake registration. Within that, they have just tried to further strengthen the rule, or take further positioning that in case the bank account details are not furnished on the portal, then in such cases the account will be suspended if it is not done within the time limit of 30 days from registration or 45 days from the date of application. So if that is not done, then in such cases the registration on the portal will get suspended, and once the bank details are uploaded again on the portal, it will get revoked and it will be an auto revocation. I think that is what they have just tried to do, an additional parameter to take cognizance of fake. But per se by this, as you rightly told, even if the bank account is fake, how will the department know that? So I think that will not, it's not a full-fledged thing, because anybody who is trying to do a fraud does it intentionally, and hence the other person is not able to identify that, and that is why that fraud takes place. When a thief, we can lock our door, but if the thief comes from the window, what can we do that? We will lock the door and the window both. But in case if it's just he breaks the wall, what are you going to do that? So wherever there is going to be an intention behind all these frauds, they are going to find out new ways of doing it. Of course, but at least that does not mean that we don't lock our door or we don't lock our safe, right? So we have to make our safeguards, and I think that is what the government is trying to do.
Okay. I think, friends, we are at 12 o'clock. WSA coordinators, can we extend it for 5 minutes or so?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much. So we'll quickly take up the remaining questions. I don't think so we might have the time to take divergent views or contrary views from other panelists. So let us try and cover the remaining questions with the views of the lead panelist. Vivek, the next question is for you. This disputed Tran 1 matter went right up to the Supreme Court, and there have been orders passed for this reopening of the Tran 1 portal. The jurisdiction officers also given the orders. Certain cases they have allowed the credit, certain cases they have not allowed the credit. Now the government has very rightly recommended that the process of notifying the manual appeal filing in case of orders passed in Tran 1, Tran 2 cases should be made available. So now just quickly, sir, are we expecting, if I am successful in the appeal, in the manual appeal, are we really expecting the government to again open up the Tran 1 portal? How would it really get reflected in my electronic credit ledger, with the background that there were a lot of standing judgments of honorable high courts from multiple jurisdictions where they had ruled that yes, you have to give ordered them on this front. So how do we see that even after this manual filing of appeal and a successful arguing, can we really expect the credits, Vivek ji?
See, my entitlement is entitlement. If I'm entitled to take the credit, my credit ledger should contain that particular amount, whatever the way may be. Okay, I don't know in what way they are going to give this particular mechanism, but that is for sure that once I'm entitled means entitled. So even if I'm furnishing my appeal application manually, government will have to give the credit to me. Now, it is going to be interesting to see that in what manner they are recrediting my ledger. Okay. In fact, they are going to give the credit to my ledger, right? So Rule 86, we do have Rule 86 for electronic credit ledger, where the recredit concept has been mentioned, and the form is TMT03. Now, let us see in what way they give. Of course, they will have to give the methodology by way of portal only. चाहे अपील आपका मैनुअल हो रहा है, लेकिन कोई तो वे इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली होगा जिससे क्रेडिट होना है. Okay, but वो क्या होगा? Let us see. And in my view, no, PMT03 जब उन्होंने already एक फॉर्म बना रखा है, तो उसी में ही कुछ amendment करके या कोई भी वे देकर और उसको क्रेडिट को allow करें.
Okay, all right. Next one up, sir. Pranav bhai.
Yeah.
IT's reversal by duty-free shops, the sales by duty-free shops to international inbound passengers. They're recommending it to include such sales as an exempt sales under Rule 43 and make a reversal of input tax. My pointed question to you, sir, is the sale by such duty-free shops to international inbound passengers, is it really exempt sale, or is it a part of maybe high seas sales, what we normally call, or warehouse, bonded warehouse sales or something of that sort, and the passenger is the importer, and there may be some relaxations to the passenger when he's importing for personal use, and if he's going beyond the prescribed limit of customs, then he has to pay the duties. Is it a case of exempt sales, sir?
Yeah. So I think lots of controversies with regards to international inbound passengers. So whether the sales from the duty-free shops, it would be considered as an export to them, and if it is considered as because these duty-free shops, they are considered to be outside the custom area tariff, and whatever sales are being made by them. Suppose it is an international outbound passenger, there is no issue as such, because there it is 100% considered to be an export of services. As far as the international inbound passenger is concerned, if the goods are sold outside the customs area in the duty free shop, because there is no custom duties being levied on that. But when the passenger comes into India, the point is that whether Section 5(1) of the IGST Act would trigger, along with Section 3(7) of the Customs Tariff Act, that he will be bound to pay the duty thereon, and he will be liable to pay IGST also thereon once the international passengers comes to India. So there has been a controversy. There have been certain judgments in this case, but now what the government is trying to do is that whatever sales, the government feels that whatever sales are being made as far as the duty-free shop is concerned, is not liable to tax, and they are going to consider it as an exempt sale. Considering this as an exempt sale, they want to reverse the input tax credit on whatever purchases are being made by them. So I think this controversy has not yet subsided. There are still going to be other issues which are going to come up for the duty-free sales.
Last, I think the issue on the online gaming casinos and the horse trading. Friends, we'll just quickly take only a very simple view. Is it going to be the end of the startups or not? Because the modalities of what is going to be taxed, how it is going to be taxed, and whether it will be valid or not is a time tested, it's a thing to be seen in future. So while I've listed down the questions in the paucity of time, may not be taking up these questions as such, but only one short question to both faculties over here. Online gaming, could it be the end of the startups, booming startup industry in India, sir? Just a general take, no legal take over here. Vivek ji, first.
I think government has to rethink on it. So I cannot say that it is the ending of the startup, but yes, of course, it is very sector. It is the huge amount of tax, just by putting the tax on the value, full face value. Of course, it is a very big setback. So there is a question mark on the sustainability of these startups and the investors who have invested into that.
Okay, Pranav bhai.
Yeah, same thing, because 28% on full face value, because whether that is the service component which is coming, because because it is not a sale of goods. What is happening? It is an actionable claim which is being put at stake, we can say. And I think the entire controversy has this online gaming thing has come up after the Gamescraft judgment. 24,000 crore was demanded on online rummy being played. Whether this rummy is a game of skill or a game of chance. What if there are stakes involved in that game? Whether it will be considered as gambling or not? Because if we see Schedule 3 actionable claims are neither a supply of goods nor services except lotteries, betting, and gambling. So the entire gamut of discussion was that if rummy is being paid, so first question is that whether the game of rummy per se, whether stakes are involved or not involved. If I win, I get say 50,000, 1 lakh, whatever. Okay, whether the game of rummy is a game of skill or a game of chance, and I think the High Court has very clearly come out with the ruling that it is a game of skill and not a game of chance. Okay, so that is one factor, and it has given reference to so many other judgments also. If we see, there are 30-40 judgments which are which are mentioned in the judgment of Gamescraft, and that it mentions that it is a game of skill only. So the only question is that now if that game of skill is along with a chance or a stake to win, whether it will be considered still as a game of skill or as a game of chance. There also, I think the High Court has very clearly gone to tell that still it will be considered as a game of skill only, and this is an actionable claim. It is not specifically included in the exclusions from actionable claims in Schedule 3, and hence it is not liable to tax. And 24,000 crores was the stake in the DGGI investigation, which was being heard by the court. So there's a huge amount of money which is involved, and the way online gaming is spreading, the government wants to get in their revenue share on that, and I think some amendment will come. See, tax is already payable. Whatever services are there on that, already taxes are being levied at 28%. So the only further controversy which will come up is whether what should be the value of that. And if we see the press release, there was a separate group of ministers which was formed in the 47th GST Council. In the 50th GST Council, they have given 2 reports, but in both the reports, they are telling that they have not come to a consensus that how this should be valued and how the tax should be levied. So even though a specific group of ministers was appointed by the council, they have not been able to come to a consensus. And the council has taken a toss. Okay, we want the tax, we put it on the higher value. And that is what they have done. The industry is still representing. I think let's wait for what is going to come. One of the big listed companies in this immediately came out with a clarification that only 5% of their revenue is involved in the entire out of the entire revenue in such instances. So I think the industry is also thinking it's a new thing which has come in, and as far as online gaming is concerned, and it will evolve. I think there are going to be controversies that will get evolved, but of course the players will remain. The players and the persons who make them play are going to remain and stay here. Taxation will take care of itself.
Okay, I think with that, I think we reach the end of our session. Thank you very much, both faculties, Pranav bhai and Vivek bhai, for their very clear answers, the clarity of thoughts they have brought to the table, and the well in-depth research that they have done in a very short span of time when this council decision has came into play and the session has been organized. So thank you very much to both faculties, Pranav bhai and Vivek bhai, for your detailed discussion. I hand over proceedings to WSA coordinator Akansha.
And thanks to Sumit also, I think, for
Yes.
identifying the issues and putting up the questions, because it really triggers that, okay, what could be the answer, because he has gone a step beyond what is the amendment and what could be the implications of the amendment. So I think well done, Sumit.
Yeah, I would agree. I think
Speaking is an easier task rather than preparing all these things. So I'm very thankful from bottom of my heart, to Sumitji, because they have made our task simpler.
I thought my job was simpler, just to ask the questions, not give the answers. So I think we are both benefited by WIS, who has given us this great opportunity. We all benefited on that. So all thanks to WISC for giving this opportunity to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Akansha ji.
Thanks to all
I would like to thank all the faculty on behalf of WRC and participants. It was indeed an engaging session. I think we had a detailed discussion and each one would have benefited out of it. So thank you so much for your valuable time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sumitji. Thank you, Pranav sir. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll catch up sometime.
Yes,
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 sir.
sir. Thank you, Pranav. Thank you.